everybody! I'm here today to show you how to do some really cool lettering and graffiti art. If you don't know me already, my name's Mrs. B and I've created the Artlife YouTube channel to help you get creative wherever you are. I'm an art teacher and I love doing all things arty. So please check out all my previous videos because I have heaps of fun things for you to do. Stay tuned and I'll show you how to create your very own graffiti writing. I started the very basics to show you how to create something that's personalized and really cool for the style that you love. I'll show you 3 different types, as you can see here, and have a chat about urban art and how to create your very own graffiti. So you need a few things for this graffiti writing task today. Firstly, you need some paper. I would suggest you probably only need 1 piece of A4. I'm using 2 today because I'm going to show you a few different variations of this task and things that you can do. So grab some paper. You'll also need a grey lead to draw with and an eraser so you can rub out some of your markings. And then I've just written colouring materials because this is really just dependent on what you want to use. Generally with graffiti writing, Copic markers are used, which are a very good quality marker. But if you don't have things like that, just plain old textures will do, and or some colouring pencils. I'm going to show you a version with both. So get your drawing station set up and we can get started. So essentially today, I'm teaching you a lettering kind of task, but we're going to sort of do it in that urban sort of graffiti style. So the first one I'm going to do on this piece of paper, the first thing you need to consider is the space that you want to work with. So what I mean by that is we're going to work quite big on our paper. That will help us to add lots of details. If you work really small, it could get a little bit messy and a little bit difficult to understand what you're trying to write. So the first thing I suggest is just to sort of sketch out for yourself the area in which you want to draw. Now you might choose to use a ruler if you want it to just be sort of a large area within your paper. I suggest you do this because it will help you to think big rather than small. I think our instinct is always to draw quite small. So this is a reminder to keep nice and big. So you can see here I've just drawn a very light rectangle. Now, I'll show you another version today on this piece of paper. I'm going to show you 2 more examples. The space that I'm going to do with this example is I'm going to create a bit of a curve. So I've done this smaller, but notice I've done a sort of waved sketched line, 2 of them parallel, because I'm going to draw something. I'm going to draw a word in that sort of motion. Another one I'm going to show you today is a triangle. So these are just 3 options. A rectangle being the most simple for beginners, a curve getting a little bit more advanced, and then something like a triangle is a lot more advanced. So that is what I mean by space. So we've sketched out our space. The next thing you need to do is come up with what your word will be. Now, this might simply mean your name. You might choose to write your name. You might choose to write a bit of a code word or some sort of secret tag that you want to come up with. It's completely up to you what you want to write. Today, I'm going to write the word Artlife, just because that's the name of the show. So the next thing you're going to do with your rectangle and your pencil is write your word. Now, you can choose to do this in all capitals, like this. You might choose to write in lowercase, like this. It's completely up to you, and this task can be adapted for whatever style you prefer. But I'm going to do capital today. Now, we need to consider how big the word is and how much space you have. So you might even choose to work out what letter is in the middle. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 letters. So this letter here, the L, is the middle of my word. I'm going to then draw my L in the middle of my work here. That helps me to balance it out within my page. You can choose to do that or not. All right, I, F, E, so I've got life. Just drawing fairly lightly and spacing out my letters quite a lot because we're going to make them thicker. So that's my word, very boring at the moment. But what we're going to do now is turn these single sort of letters into thicker kind of letters. So you can choose to create your bubble letters in any way you like. So it just means adding an extra layer like this, but you can choose to create a bit of a bubble at the end there. You can see that that's sort of rounded like bubble letter writing. This is all completely dependent on your particular style. You might choose to create more of a straight edge, or you might even choose to be a little bit jazzier. You could bring the edges out like that. So many things that you can do. Another version I'll show you, which is what I'll do today, is at the end of each letter, I'm going to put a bit of a ending like that. So that means that on each of my, at the bottom of each of my words, I'm just going to add a little line where it's appropriate to have that will just remind me when I'm doing my bubble letters. Oops. Okay, you get the idea. So now when I'm turning my letters into bubble writing, I'm just creating a 3D drawing. You could either draw a line either side. So I'm going to draw lines parallel to my eye here, sketching as I go down. So I'm giving my letters a body. If you imagine the first letters that we drew are the bones inside, we're now giving some muscle, some outer lines to our letter, because then what we're going to do is rub out that initial word and you're left with sort of a 3D box letter like that. So this is tricky if you haven't done it before, but all you need to do is use this line as a guide, and you're going to draw a line either side. And if this is the F, that comes out like that. Don't forget to do the little tags at the end. This is why we need to work big, because the letters are getting bigger as we're adding more detail. All right, drawing body either side of our lines. Keep it simple, guys. This task of bubble letter writing is a tricky one, and it is something that you will learn over time. For example, I don't need to do this strategy of creating the body because I've been able to do bubbles long enough that I'm able to just do it freehand. But I want to teach you step by step how to get to that point. All right, you might not be able to do that yet, but as you practice, you'll be able to do that freehand and it will become quicker. It is good to rub out the lines as you go along so you remember which ones you want to keep and which ones you don't want anymore. Cool, so this is the basic idea. Now, what you might choose to do at this stage is you could add some different kind of details. Like you might choose to add, you might make the eye a bit longer. I'll give it a dot at the top there. You might choose to make points like this as if it was an arrow pointing outwards. That looks really cool at the A. I could do that here, pointing down. Just add your personal style and touch to it. I'm not going to add too much detail at the moment because I want to show you the basics. So we have our basic outline, and what we're going to do now is lock that in with a black marker, some sort of black text that you might have. I'm just going to use a Sharpie today. Doesn't work very well. Now, obviously you can't rub out a texture, so you need to work with this as neatly as you possibly can. When you have a line that joins, what I suggest is that you actually connect some of the words together. I'll show you what I mean. So instead of drawing this line here, I'm actually not going to. I'm going to keep it separate and show you what it'll look like. Feel free to use a ruler if you have trouble with just drawing those straight lines freehand. You can always use a ruler for this, that's completely fine. So as you can see here, guys, I've connected the letters at these points. Rather than drawing in that line, I've left it connected. I feel it gives it a pretty cool kind of urban look. Awesome, so that's my sort of basic word. I'm going to rub out everything now. All right, this next part is called shading. And it's really important because it kind of makes everything stand out from the page. So what it means is adding a bit of a shadow. Now, if you're not too sure where the shadows should go, you can do this in a grey lead pencil, but I'm going to do it in my black texture just so that you guys can see. So when I do my shading, I always do everything on the left. So I'm going to pretend that the light is shining from the right hand side, creating a shadow on the left of all of my letters. So that just means that I'm going to add an extra line here, anything on the left, like that. Now you can choose to color this in. You could choose to just do details like lines like this. Same thing with the R, same thing with the T. Notice it's a really thin line. It doesn't need to be too thick. Cool. So shading is a tricky sort of part to this. It's a bit difficult sometimes to know which areas to shade and what not to shade, but if you're having a go, it will look really good. So the next step is to outline everything. So you can do this using a ruler as well, but it kind of just groups everything together. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just gonna create a line that goes and connects everything. So I'm making a line that's parallel and it connects all of my letters here into one big shape. The last thing you need to do is add some colour. So depending on how big your artwork is, I would think about 3 to 5 colours max will work really well. So I'm going to start with the darkest colour, and I'm going to just colour in the lower end of my word here as neatly as possible. What you might choose to do is also just outline the rest in this colour as well. That will sort of make it all stand out really nicely, and then colour in with some lighter colours. It's completely up to you what you do with colours though, and there's so much possibility. You can consider colours that blend together nicely, kind of like what I've done. You could consider colours that stand out from one another. For example, yellow and purple, they're contrasting or complementary colours, so they really stand out from one another. You could really have fun with colour. Now what I'm going to do is add a second colour. And a third. So can you imagine now if we'd drawn really small? That's why I, from the very beginning, wanted you to draw quite big, so it means that you can add as much detail as possible so that the letters don't get too confused and your artwork and word essentially makes sense. Cool. I'm happy with that so far. There's so many other options though. You could colour in the shadow with a different colour. You could add another colour on the outside, like I'm going to show you how to do here. You can just keep going. There. So that's my completed first sort of version. This is probably not adding a lot of different details. I'll show you something a little bit more complicated now. So we're going to use the strategies that I showed you with the other version and just modify them slightly in these shapes. So my word is Artlife again, and this time I'm going to have a go at doing a lowercase kind of font, and I'm going to keep within this curved line here. Remember, sketching is extremely important. Okay, now we do the same thing in turning these into sort of block letters. But I want to show you how to add some different sort of endings. Like I'm going to make them a little bit jazzier. So the more experience you have, sort of the more you can play with the drawing aspect, I suppose, and making the ends interesting. This will make your overall sort of artwork more interesting too. And things like this are all sort of about personal style. So, you know, what someone else does might be very different to what you do and what you like to draw. So I'm just sketching in some sort of extra elements like I did here with the little blocks on the end and the arrows. I'm doing something similar, but just doing more of a pointed edge. Cool. So again, what I've tried to do is connect, oh, I forgot the L. Whoops. Artlife. Well, there you go. Make sure you write your word properly. Whoopsie. All right, let's see if I can try to turn this mistake into a masterpiece. I don't know if it's possible. All right, let's... Oh, whoops, that was silly of me, wasn't it, guys? Never mind. Okay, this lucky last one, I just want to show you how changing the space or the shape really changes the style. So I'm going to start off with writing my word, but I'm going to keep it as much as possible within this triangular shape. And I'm going to do the same thing once again by making it bubble lighters. That was fun. I really quite enjoyed that one. It's a little bit more my style with the lines kind of coming out a bit more freely. And then the last kind of, I've just added a bit of a scrappy kind of border as well. So as you can see, these two are extremely different, but they obviously show you different things when it comes to graffiti style writing, and hopefully have given you a few steps to get started to create your own. Please try to add your own sort of style, as I said, and follow my steps as I've shown you to try to create a really cool and interesting graffiti lettering.
So it's as simple as that. Not too sure which one you like the best or which one you've had a go at, but I'd love to see if you tag me on my socials. And please make sure that you also give me a like and subscribe just to help support me create videos for you in the future. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you on the next video.